Hey, what's up guys? It's Abby Andrew and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I wanted to make a really quick tutorial about how to make costume ears using a kind of like plushy ear method. So I actually made these ears for a last minute cosplay for an Espeon Cosplay I was doing as a collaboration with the Renee of Paris wig company to do a cosplay look with this wig, which is Divine Waves in Lilac Cloud from the new Muse collection. I'm in love with this wig color and style. I have a review on it if you want to check that out. I'll link it on the screen. It was a really quick and casual cosplay that I did for one of their Instagram live streams. I do bi-weekly live streams over on their Instagram, and basically my Espeon cosplay was pretty much just making a dress from scratch, as well as making these ears. So I wanted to show you the ears that I made. They're not perfect obviously, but I'm not like the greatest crafter or sewer, so I wanted to make a video about this because I think that really anybody could make these, and I feel like that they ultimately did come out looking pretty good. There are a couple things that I did mess up on that I'm definitely going to emphasize in this video so that you don't make the same mistake that I did, but these are totally doable for anyone to make. Obviously I did like an Espeon ear shape, but you could do it for cat ears, bunny ears, like whatever you wanted to do. So here's how the ears look. They are made out of bed sheets actually, so I cut the bed sheet into the shape of the ear and then sewed it together and filled it with a pillow stuffing that I got at the craft store and then attached them to this headband. I'm gonna make another video about the dress I made as well for the Espeon cosplay, but it's actually the first dress I ever made, and it is made completely out of bed sheets because I needed this purpley fabric and I didn't have anything on hand and I had to make it really last minute. I looked at the color of my bed sheets and I was like, wow, that is the exact color I need. So I ended up making it out of my bed sheets and then just ordering new sheets. And I obviously had spare ones too. But this ultimately came out looking way better than I expected, considering it was the first dress I've ever made completely from scratch. I'll make another separate video about this because it was a really fun project to do, and it's not completely finished. Right now it's pretty much just a basic purple dress. I still want to add some features to the front that make it a little bit more specifically Espeon rather than just, right now it's just like a purple dress. But this video is going to focus on the ears. So I'm going to jump into a tutorial showing you actually how I made it with the footage of sewing it, but I just want to point out really quick the biggest problems that I ran into so you can avoid those right off the bat. So the biggest problem that you can already probably tell just by looking is, if you're familiar with Espeon, you can tell I kind of got the shape wrong. And it's not because I drew out the shape wrong in my pattern, it's that when I was drawing out the pattern for the ears that I was going to cut out and turn into these kind of like plushies for the ears, I accidentally drew the little ear tails, I think they're called, too small. So I went through the whole process of drawing them out, sewing them together, and then when I actually had to like turn it inside out after you're done sewing it, or turn it right side out, those ear tail things were too tiny. So at that point it was just like, okay, this isn't even worth salvaging. It's gonna look better if I just cut them out entirely rather than having to start completely over. But if you're going to do Espeon ears specifically, or any ears really, make sure you're drawing the pattern that you're working with big enough, because don't forget that when you sew it together, you're going to lose probably about an inch, maybe more, when you're sewing it together. Obviously that's sewing 101 for anyone that is familiar with sewing, but for someone that is newer to it like me, sometimes I forget to factor that in. So make sure you do factor in an extra inch or two, I would say, for your ears. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and jump into the actual tutorial. So like I said, I was working with this purple bedsheet fabric because it was just the exact color that I needed, and it worked really well for these ears. So if you don't want to spend a lot of money on fabric, you can totally use old sheets that you have, or just any old fabric. It doesn't really matter. The very first thing I did was cut out the shape of the ears. So you can see here that I traced them out first. It ended up being too small because I knew that I was going to lose a little bit of the size when I sewed it together, so I ended up retracing it and drew it a little bit bigger. Again, if you are doing Espeon's ears, this is where I made a mistake. Make sure you make those ear tails much bigger than you actually want them to end up by adding an extra inch or two. Next thing you're going to do is cut out 4 cuts of this same exact shape, because you're going to need 2 for the left ear and 2 for the right ear, and you're going to sew them each together. Then I went ahead and pinned each side together so that I had 2 different cuts of the ear pinned together. Then all you have to do is use a straight stitch and just go around the edge of the ear. And when you're done, just turn it inside out. To help you turn it right side out, if it's kind of hard to reach the end of it, you can use any sort of long tool, like the back side of a pen. Make sure you're not getting ink on your fabric. You can use maybe a ruler, or here I'm using one of those big plastic sewing needle things. So as you can see here, this is where I realized I completely messed up the size of the ear tails. They were so small, and when I started to fill it with stuffing, there's no way I was able to actually stuff stuffing in those little tiny things. So that's when I decided to scrap the ear tails and just stick with the main part of the ear shape. So once the sides were sewn together and turned right side out, I just filled it with this pillow stuffing. I bought this basic pillow stuffing at a craft store. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you want to, you can even use the stuffing from an old stuffed animal that you don't care about anymore, that you don't feel too guilty ripping apart, or an old pillow or something like that, and just use that for the stuffing. You're going to want to make sure the stuffing is spread out evenly, so make sure you're kind of just moving it along and pulling it apart as you are filling out the ear so it looks like this, nice and flat instead of too bulky in one part. So make sure when you are filling up the ears with stuffing, make sure you are spreading it out all the way to the tip of the end and making sure it's not too bulky in one spot. You can kind of do that just by massaging it out to the ends and not putting in too big of a chunk at a time so it's a little bit spread out. Once the ears are full of stuffing, I just sewed off the bottom to close it off. Once that part was done, I took some darker purple felt to make the inner ear, and all I had to do was just cut out a little piece of the felt that kind of is the shape of the inner ear, make two of them that are the exact same size, and then I just used some craft glue to glue them on to the ears. With my ears, I had a lot of excess fabric on the bottom, which was perfect for me because I ended up using that to affix it to the headband. So mine are kind of loosely attached to the headband. As you can see here, they actually do move around, so they actually could come right off. So you might want to do yours a little bit more finished. Maybe you could use some glue, but I kind of like the way it works when you put them on your head, because once it's on your head, it's pressing against your head so it's not moving around anymore. But then if you wanted to, you could give them lower ears, you can make them higher if you wanted to. So you have a little bit of flexibility, but that was honestly just me being kind of lazy with it. But once I realized it worked, I didn't really bother going any farther than that. And here's the back of it. It's very messy looking. Again, if I wasn't doing this just for an online cosplay and I was going to be wearing these somewhere in person, I probably would have bothered to make it a little bit neater in the back. But you can pretty much do the same method. Just kind of fold over some of the fabric so that it's just like wrapping around the headband. Tight enough that it doesn't come loose or move around too much. And that's pretty much it for how I made my Espeon Cosplay ears. To make up for the ear tails, I could totally like make little pigtails under here or something like that. I don't know, something like that or something, and I could just like pin it there so it's kind of like the ear tails. Again, I will make a video about the full cosplay after this. I just wanted to make this video as soon as possible, hopefully get it up before Halloween, so that if you want to make your own ears last minute, this is a super easy method that I think that anybody could do. And you could probably do it with supplies you already have, as long as you have needle and thread. And a sewing machine is good, but you don't necessarily need to use a sewing machine either. You could totally just stitch it by hand. Okay guys, I hope this was helpful to you. Let me know in the comments below if you ended up using this tutorial. I like to make these tutorials even as a complete beginner because I think if I can make something like this and it comes out pretty decent looking, then anyone else out there who is a complete beginner as well, this is totally an achievable thing to do. Whereas sometimes when you watch cosplay tutorials where these people are like amazing crafters, you look at that and you feel like it's so hard to do and it's so unachievable. So that's why I still sometimes make these tutorials with really basic cosplay tips just for other beginners like me who just need help getting started. So definitely give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, comment below whatever you want to say, subscribe to this channel for more cosplay tips and tutorials and wig tips and tutorials and things like that. Thank you guys so much for watching this and have a beautiful day.